right, everybody just calm the frick down. Way too many people turn this into a way bigger story than it really is. And I wasn't really planning to make a video on this until I did a live stream yesterday and got the same question like 15 times. So sorry if I'm a bit biased towards Marques. I've had him on my podcast a couple times. I've watched him since long before I was even making tech videos. I've been a long-term fan, so even though I've disagreed with him and I've made public statements about where I disagree, this is a situation that I think people are blowing way out of proportion. All at the same time when the real evil YouTubers are trying to launch weird lunchable competitors and you want to talk about a wallpaper app. So Marques saw a demand and he simply wanted to provide a supply. He's right. Like for years and years and years, he's always had these kind of unique, original, cool looking wallpapers across all his devices in his videos. And all the time he was getting comments and replies on social media about where did you get that wallpaper? Where'd you get that wallpaper? So enough people asking for something. He's a very successful, super popular YouTuber. He was like, okay, how can we monetize this in some way, shape, or form? Which I don't think is wrong by any means. He's not just one guy anymore. The MKBHD team is growing. There's a lot of people making the whole channel run. He's got the autofocus channel. He's got the Waveform podcast. And on top of that, he's also like a professional ultimate frisbee player. He's a busy guy. So it doesn't make sense for a busy person to spend a lot of time working on something that brings in no income, right? And also, he's not the one actually coming up with these wallpapers himself. He's partnering with different artists. You want the artists to be reimbursed for their work. What a unique idea in this age of AI generated wallpapers everywhere you look. Here's a guy that's actually trying to promote artists out there and get them paid, but people were blowing up at him because essentially the wallpaper app panels that he launched just a couple of days ago, people weren't in love with it, okay? The design of the app is a little dated. There's a lot of ads in the app and people were concerned about the permissions it was asking for in the App Store, but people just assumed the absolute worst of him from day one, which is a shame to me because I think he stood for a lot in the tech community. He's kind of shaped the tech community for what it is. Yes, again, I am biased, but everybody just assumed that, oh, well, because the Twitter account that is being used to promote the Panels app was created 3 years ago, that means that he must have bought an existing wallpaper app, skinned it, and acted like it was his own, and this is some kind of like Chinese spyware because it asks for your location. Does a wallpaper app need your location? No, but he further explained on Twitter, after everybody was blowing up at him, that the only reason that that was listed in the list of things the app would ask permission for was because they were trying to be transparent about how the advertising worked in the app. So advertisers are more likely to show up in that app, assuming you hit allow and everything, if they're nearby, if they're local. They were trying to do more centralized advertising, which is extremely common, by the way. You see it on Google, you see it on Facebook. Basically, if you use the internet, there is proximity-based advertising. That is not outside the norm. But because the developer Marques chose for the Panels app wanted to disclose that advertisers might technically use your location to coordinate what ads show up within the app, everyone just assumed, oh, he bought an existing spyware app and it's trying to track your location. And then if that wasn't enough, people were mad at the fact that there are ads in a free app. Again, monetization, kind of important if you're going to spend any amount of time on something. Not to mention, also want some money to go towards the artists that are making the wallpaper possible. I know, so incredibly unreasonable, right? But there's also a way to get rid of the ads. I know, this is such a bizarre idea that if you pay money, the ads go away, and of course you can get all the wallpapers at full resolution. It unlocks lots of things, and people were mad that it was costing $50 a year. Now look, I'll disclose from the beginning, I'm not like a guy who would download a wallpapers app. My phone is typically just shuffling through photos in my library, so it's changing constantly. I just like to remember my memories that way. So I'm not a wallpapers app guy, but I think it was made abundantly clear that most of Marques's audience was probably unaware of how wallpaper apps work, because I looked up other wallpaper apps on the App Store. I wanted to see the highest rated ones, the ones that had been downloaded the most, the ones that had 5 stars on the App Store with hundreds of thousands of reviews, and guess what? They all had incredibly similar pricing structures. Pretty much all of them you can download free with ads, so you can unlock wallpapers if you watch an ad or two, and then pretty much every single one I could find does have in-app purchases. So if you're willing to spend a little money, the ads go away, you unlock some more wallpapers. Some of them were, looking at like $4 a month. Some of them were less than that. Like you could find worse wallpaper apps that would be like $10 for the year, but some of them even were charging $15 $15 a month. And these are the ones with 5 stars, even though panel apps aren't for me. Like when I saw the announcement he made on Twitter and in his YouTube review of the iPhone 16, I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people were asking for wallpapers. He provided a way to access those wallpapers. And of course, because he's a very busy businessman who's got lots of overhead and, you know, YouTube is inconsistent with income, CPMs are changing all the time. They're not as good as they used to be. I can speak from experience that tech YouTube videos don't make as much money as they used to. So of course, he's not just going to give away the artist's wallpapers for free, but he basically priced it and launched it along the same prices, not anything out of the ordinary from every other highly reviewed wallpaper app out there. And simply because the UI was a little bit clunky and there were a lot of ads. I'm not a fan of ads. Again, this app was not for me. I'm the kind of guy that's like, yeah, I'm just fine with my lock screen shuffling through different Photos apps. But he provided a way to monetize his wallpapers that people were asking for. And yet they turned that into, oh, he must be spying on us or partnering with this rebranded wallpaper app that clearly has been around for a while simply because he acquired a Twitter account with the same name, Panels, and that Panels account was made back in 2021, but it was not for a wallpaper app at all. They just wanted to have that handle, so he got it. And some people are complaining that they're splitting the revenue between the wallpaper artists 50-50, which some people might say is a bit aggressive because, you know, like the iOS App Store is more like 70-30%. But in my opinion, the artists for these wallpapers were never going to get anywhere near as much sales or revenue or as much attention on their work if it weren't for Marques. So while it may seem unfair to some people that it's a 50-50 split, I guarantee you, if they were to just launch the Panels app without Marques on their own, and this was just its own dedicated wallpapers app, no one would be talking about it. There would absolutely be no coverage. And the fact that Marques is willing to partner with them, he chose this app and chose to promote it in probably one of his biggest videos of the year, means, in my opinion, even though it's a 50-50 split, they're probably going to get 10 times or 20 times as much revenue for their work than if they were to go independently. So this is very common in the field. If you want the publicity, if you want the association with an existing brand, they get a piece of that, but typically you get more money out of it. So personally, I think way too many people were blowing it out of proportion. I'm not trying to say the app was perfect, but I was happy to see Marques did address that they're going to tone down on the ads a little bit and be more transparent on the permissions that the app is asking for. And he did, of course, clarify that no, the app is not just randomly trying to track your location. That was for advertiser purposes. In fact, they were more honest than the other wallpaper apps by saying that, hey, the advertisers might be checking for your location and all that. But a lot of people were immediately treating Marques like this was the end of his career. Like, imagine working for 15 years on making high quality tech videos and then it all fumbles, it all falls apart because of this one wallpaper app. Like, have you guys seen what some of these other crazy YouTubers are doing lately? I don't even want to get into it because it's so disgusting, but this is so trivial, and yet people were putting Marques on the same level of KSI and Logan Paul and Mr. Beast and all these terrible things going on. And I'm like, no, this is not anywhere close to that. The guy launched an app that was a little poorly designed, and you're acting like he's been canceled, like his career is over now just because people are getting angry. I'm sorry, you're probably mad at me too, but just because a person makes a living out of critiquing tech products, in my opinion, it does not mean that everything you have to do for your own merch or your own products or accessories have to now therefore be perfect. Like, yes, Marques can launch an app or a product that has some flaws with some room for improvement and still be critical of other brands. Like, people are saying he's a hypocrite because he trashed the Fisker Ocean, which was a terrible vehicle, by the way, but then also launched a wallpaper app that had annoying ads in it and maybe a bit of a clunky UI. I'm like, no, both things can be true. To me, that'd be like saying you can't criticize like the latest Marvel movie because you haven't made a movie yourself. It's like, no, you can make your own movie, you can write your own book. Other people cannot like your book, but that doesn't mean all of your criticism from other people's movies or works are therefore wrong. Like, we're all flawed. We all have room for improvement. We all make mistakes. And in my opinion, there was no maliciousness. There was no intent to scam people. He literally had a request from his audience all the time, literally for years. I remember seeing those comments and people are like, where'd you get that wallpaper? Where'd you get that wallpaper? And he found a way to monetize it, which I think all YouTubers do. And frankly, most YouTubers do a lot worse than Marques does. And just let me clarify from the beginning, this is not Marques's first product, okay? He's partnered with lots of different brands. He's on the board of directors for the Ridge Wallet team, which I'm a huge fan of. I've been using Ridge Wallet since long before Marques joined it, so it felt like a perfect fit for him to join them. And he's also launched physical items and merch in the past that he puts way more attention to detail in than most other YouTubers do. Most YouTubers, including myself, would literally just slap their logo on, you know, a Teespring shirt and call it a day. But Marques actually worked and developed the technology to make his merch and make his accessories as high quality as possible so that his audience would enjoy it. So much so that I decided we need to take a look for ourselves and see if they're all the hype. But I suppose we could save that for another video. But in my opinion, while there were definitely some annoyances with the panels app, people were blowing it way out of proportion. And in my opinion, what's very sickening is a guy who's advocated for the everyday consumer for years and has kind of helped shape what the tech community is as a whole. And he's made the time to come on tiny channels like mine. That's a guy who genuinely cares. He's genuinely invested in the tech community, and everybody just assumed the worst of him as soon as they saw that location tracking thing. And everybody was so quick to tear him down. And I think that's really sad. Like, I think we deserve to treat him better. He's been honest and transparent with us, and I don't think people should be so quick to cancel or jump on the bandwagon of, oh, we hate somebody now. Like, get a life. Go find something more productive to do with your time than just find ways of tearing people down. There's so much worse YouTubers out there you should be spending time tearing down anyway. But that's all I've got to say on it. We'll talk about the shoes later. Thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. This is your MKBHD sheep here, and I'll see you all in the next one.